Welcome to Saturday in Stitches. On this episode, we're going to talk all about pressing matters and why it's important and show you how we like to do things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm Angela.
And I'm Erin, and we're at Mended Hearts Quilting and Boutique in Ellsworth, Iowa.
So everything we're going to show you and talk about is all on my website, mendedheartsquilting.com. And as always, if you have any questions regarding anything that we show you or talk about, you can always reach out to us as well. All the information is on the website.
All right, should we jump right in?
Let's jump right in.
And let's talk about why pressing matters.
Okay, such a good segue. Okay, so first thing we want to talk about is, of course, it depends. We all press on something different. You may have a ironing board. You may have something that you have created yourself. Some people have made their own ironing boards. That's great. Either way, whatever you use is wonderful, but we did want to talk about and show you the wool pressing mats. This one, I'm sure you can see it is stained up. It is well loved. It is one that we use here in the shop. And the reason that they started the wool pressing mats is for machine embroidery, honestly. So when you go to press it, your project sinks down into the wool mat, and so you don't have your stitches being flattened out. But then we all got a hold of it, I guess.
And realized how wonderful of a product it is.
So they come in all different sizes. This is, like I say, one of the larger ones.
This is a mini. We have lots of ladies that bring these into the shop for retreats and classes. The mini is super easy to carry around. It is 9 by 12. At home, I have the bigger one by my machine, and then I also have an ironing board set up in case I need like longer seams. It's easier on the ironing board, but I do have the wool mat set up at home as well. Do you use it?
I do too. Yep. I have one right next to my sewing machine. And so when we were talking about this earlier, one of the things that came up then is when you are sewing at a retreat or at home, we tend to set everything up next to us. We have our mat next to us. We're going. But just remember to set an ironing board up away from your station so that you are getting up and moving around.
That's a good tip.
And yeah, so just try to get up and move around a bit, even though these are wonderful to have right next to you, and you can sit them right on your sewing table.
This sits right next to us.
Yep. So they are wonderful mats. The reason they are so wonderful is because the wool mat will warm up as well. So when you are pressing, you're pressing essentially from both sides of your fabric. So that's why it gives you such a nice crisp,
flat seam.
When you're
Yeah, but that is a good tip. Make sure you get up and stretch and walk around, because we tend to be super focused on our project and forget about that.
Yeah, we had a retreat over the weekend here at Mended Hearts, and a couple different times I saw one of the retreaters. She was just out walking around my acreage because the shop sits out on my acreage. And so, she was just out walking around, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was such a sunny, beautiful day. And she said, I get sore if I sit too long, and so I just need to get out and stretch. So that's always good too. And if you can get up and get some fresh air, that's always a good thing too. So, So you have your pressing mat, and then next,
we probably need an iron.
Yes.
So
we have several irons that we will show you.
Since we've been talking about retreats and classes, let's start with these mini ones.
Okay. This one is the Petite Press. It has 4 temperature settings on it, but it's just this sweet little, let's see, I don't know if it tells me how big the top of it, the pressing side is, but You can see on here, it just sits in between my two fingers here.
Yeah, it is small.
So it's small, but when you're working on minis, you know, where you have those 1-inch squares, even 2-inch squares, when you're working on minis, this is wonderful because you know how you press one seam and then you go to press the other seam and then you've messed up the one that you've already pressed.
Yeah.
Yes, so these are fantastic for that.
So this is the Dritz Mighty Steam Iron. This is what I use, and actually even at home I use this more often than my big one. I love it. It gets very hot and it's very easy to use. It fits right in your hand, and it's very economical. So it is a great little travel iron.
So let's talk about to steam or not to steam.
I don't steam.
You don't steam?
No.
Oh my gosh, I steam.
I don't steam. I don't know.
It's well,
I never have.
There's no right or wrong, but I will say this: I know a lot of times newbies are taught don't use steam because steam can misshape your fabric, but that goes into are you ironing or are you pressing? So maybe we should.
Are you putting water in your iron?
I do both. I do both. So, I have the spray bottles.
The fine misting
spray. Yep. The misting. And so I have one that I fill with water and one that I fill with a pressing agent. And we will talk about those in just a minute. But I do this this actual iron here. I'll pull this one down next. I have water in it all the time. I have steam in it all the time. It is the Panasonic, and it's a cordless. And I mean, I use multiple irons, so this
you are a little extra.
We're sitting here with crowns on. I think we're both a little extra. So the Panasonic cordless iron. This is the only cordless iron that I've ever found that stays heated up for a good length of time. So it has water in it right now because I steam. I use this all the time when I'm long arming, so that way I can just grab it and run over to the long arm and I don't have to worry about a cord. So that's why with this one, I always have water in it and steam.
Another thing about this one, if you have it pulled out, both sides are pointed.
Oh, yes.
So you can use either side to get into the, creases, your seams, which is super nice to have both sides pointed like that.
Yes, that's an excellent point for this. And your cord is just in the bottom of it, and it just slides right back in. And it does come with the cover case if you would like it. So, to steam or not to steam, I'll put this one back out before we show the other one. It comes down to, are you ironing or are you pressing? So if you're using steam and you are just pressing, just moving it around pressing, you're not going to have that distortion. You're not going to get it. And if you're ironing like this, which we should only be doing on our clothes, then if you're using steam, you could stretch that out. Now,
it is super hard just to press, though. I will say, like, if I'm doing a seam and I have to tell myself, don't move the iron. Like, it is a hard habit to break going like this.
It is very much so. Well, and you can wiggle.
Right.
I wiggle, press and wiggle. Press and wiggle. But here's the thing, though. Sometimes you need that steam to make that fabric behave. So let's say, for instance, when I'm talking about with long arming, sometimes you get that quilt top done or some of your blocks done wherever you're at in the process, and they don't lay flat. There's a whole lot of reasons for that, which we will cover as we go as well. And I'm sure we've covered some of that already in our past episodes. But as you progress and learn and grow in your skills, before that, we all start somewhere. And sometimes you make a quilt top that turns out pregnant. I mean, it's just, you try to lay it flat and it's just got a baby bump.
Yeah,
in the middle
I
of
remember
it.
that.
So steam is your friend. Like when you have it on your quilting machine, that's what I do. I get it all squared up, laid flat, and go in with the steam, and it'll shrink it right back in where it needs to be. Now that might not work as well if you're somebody who washes your fabric beforehand, but if the fabric has not been pre-washed, it's gonna it's because they're shrinking all fabric. It's not as much when you're talking about a quilt shop quality cotton, but it's enough that it's going to help flatten and get that quilt to lay how it needs to lay. So that's where steam is wonderful. And I think I'm so used to using it there that I just use it in everything.
So in that instance, I just finished a quilt this week, and it had some piece blocks. It had blocks with lots of piecing, which you have to be super careful on your seams to keep everything the same. And then it had just a single cut block. Well, of course, not everything's meshing up, so I use the Acorn Easy Press fabric treatment. So I put this refill bottle in my mister, and I spray the heck out of my quilt with this, and then I press it, and then it all goes back together. So I guess in a sense that's just, kind of the same as steaming.
Yeah.
But
yes, and
this is my magic right here.
And I'm a breast press.
What's on your mind today?
Oh, before I sat down, I was making sure. Best press. So best press is what I like to use, and we have that in this shop. It's a clear starch, and I just love this. This is my favorite. Now this one is no perfumes, no dyes. I do have it in the lavender thyme. I normally don't like things with the smells added, but this one smells so good. I ended up getting this one in the shop as well. But I tend to do both. If I'm going to use best press, then I steam as well.
Oh, sure.
And that's probably overkill. One or the other, I'm sure, is just fine. But
well, this is my favorite. It has a little bit more body to it than best press gives you. And it helps you hide things a little bit more than what best press does.
Nice.
And it also comes in this refillable pen, so you can just dab it on your seam allowance and use it that way if you want. And if you have ever had one of those creases that will not come out, spray this on there. It relaxes. Sometimes you don't even have to iron it. It just relaxes it clear down. It is amazing.
It's magic.
It is my magic spray. I shouldn't tell everyone my secrets, but that's how you get your quilt to be nice and flat.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to pass on your secrets. So, yeah.
And, well, speaking of nice and flat seams, oh, we didn't finish the irons.
Oh, let's finish the irons. Okay.
So we have the Chi.
This is nice because it has a spot for the cord to be inside. I do like that.
Yes, this is what my large iron at home. I have the Chi. This is what we use here in the retreat center as well.
So, this one's actually not too bad. It's one of the newer ones I put down there. I was going to say, don't look at the bottom because
I just cleaned them all the other day.
Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah. So we use these, in the retreat center in the classroom space.
And what I like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
these have auto off. So if you have it plugged in and forget about it, it shuts itself off and it makes a little noise to remind you. I like that.
I do like the noise part, yes. The Panasonic, that will shut itself off as well. the cordless Panasonic, but I do like the beep because when
Mhm.
you're down there and you hear that beep, you automatically start looking around. Like,
Yes.
what's happening?
One day I was like, whose phone keeps going off? Wasn't a phone. So that's our Chi iron. I love that. And if you have ever, like, Chi has tons of products, but they have their flat irons that are really popular for hair that are top of the
Yes.
line. Just a great brand. And then we have our mini Olisos. So these cute little Olisos. This one happens to be Tula Pink. I was trying to grab the box here.
And it has its own little heat resistant mat that it sits on. And I have this in a coral color.
Mm-hmm.
And it sits right next to my sewing machine.
Now, does yours have the light that they've added?
Yes.
Do you like that?
I do like it.
Nice.
Because I put all of my efforts into the shop for lighting, and my sewing room in the house is not so much.
Not so much.
And I tend to sew late at night, so having this on, I don't know, it's just kind of a fun thing to have the little light on there. But I have the big Oliso across the other side of my room, and that's the one I use for regular pressing at the house. But when I'm sitting by my machine, this is the best little thing ever. I love it.
Nice. And this Tula one is so cute with its design.
Its
design, and it's bright pink.
All the
silicone
colors.
mat, which is very nice. Make your sewing room happy.
Okay, so we went through all the irons, all the different ones that we carry or that we use. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And I will say probably, you know, we've had people in the shop and they complain because they're using an older iron and it still works and it's wonderful, but it's so heavy. So something to think about. You may have one of those older irons that still works great, but if it's so heavy for you and constant lifting when you're pressing, I mean, just make the investment and get yourself a lighter iron so that you're not bothering your shoulders.
And the cordless Panasonic, I think is pretty lightweight.
It's very lightweight.
The Chi is definitely heavier, but I don't think it's bad. But it is definitely in comparison wise, the cordless is a lot lighter.
Yeah. So what's up next?
Well, we did touch on our sprays. What about our stilettos?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this is my absolute favorite. Hold It. It's called Hold It Precision Stiletto. It is by Clover. The reason that I love it so much is because you've got your pointy tip at this end, and then you've got this end. It's a silicone tip on there. It's a little bit flatter and rounder. It's not as pointy, and this is heat resistant. So if you are trying to press something, and again, you're working on the smaller seams, even with bigger seams sometimes. I don't have this one opened up, but you can just sit it right down, and if that iron hits it, it is not going to do anything to it. It's not going to melt it. It's not going to get super hot. It does nothing to it. So I have these all over my sewing room because this is my absolute favorite.
And I prefer more of the sharp point. This one is by Annie. It's a stiletto and pressing tool. So you have your sharp end here, which you can help move things under your sewing machine. And then you have your pressing tool here. So it's wood, so you can just press that on there and help open up your seam.
Yeah, so you're going to have the same thing with that one where it's going to be heat resistant.
Yeah.
It's not going to get super hot on that end.
And the one cool thing about this one is it's flat on the sides, so it won't roll off your table.
I will say that was genius.
Yeah.
Whoever thought of that was genius. Yeah.
But I like the pointed top. Yeah. And then I grabbed a purple thing because we all probably have 20 of these in our sewing room. which probably not heat resistant,
No.
but a good tool to have if you need to like press something open. You can not with your iron, but use the end. It has your 1/4 inch on there, so you can use it when you're sewing. Just a nice tool to have.
So the reason that we have these and we always carry them is because in the world of paper piecing, they're used a lot. They're recommended a lot because you can use the one end, the flatter end, to kind of get those papers up. If you have one that's giving you a hard time, or well, it's not on this so much, but some of Quote Works, they can get really close on their points, and so it kind of you can get in there really good and get that paper flipped off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the biggest reasons that I use it. It'd be nice if it was heat resistant too. Maybe we should make that suggestion. No, then they'd probably cost a lot more. And those are great because they're not very pricey.
Right.
And if you lose it, misplace it, or have one in every box with each sewing project you're working on, I mean, it's just a thing. Right?
And it's a good way to check your 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
I love having it around just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's our next pinning to get a
Pinning.
seam? Is that where we're at? Pinning. So your seams, you can press to the dark is how most of us have been taught. So when you have your piece, you're going to press towards the darker fabric. And then that makes it easier when you're putting your pieces together. If you press to the darker fabrics, then when they go together, you are nesting your seams together. So on this side, your seam's coming one way, and then on the other side, it's going the other way. And when you press them together, they lay nice and flat, and they just fit together nicely, so you get your point when you are done sewing.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Most of the time. Most of the time.
I'm not a pinner, so I tend to press to the dark and nest my seams and go for it because I unless it's a quilt that's really like good to go to a competition or something, I tend to just get it done and I don't pin.
I pin.
Yes.
Even, I mean, my seams right here are very nested. So something like this, I mean, I might put it under the machine without pinning. And I like to feel my seam all the way down and make sure it's all lined up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it makes it nice and tidy.
So then when you pin, do you pin on either side of your seam or do you just pin straight across?
I usually pin kind of straight across. So I usually take it on one side, pin down, and come out the other side.
Oh, sure. So you're crossing over
my seam. Yeah. And when I start out, I pin a lot, and then by the end of it, I'm like, 1 or 2 is good. But I usually cross it over, and sew right up to there, and kind of make sure when I get to this point that it's still nested nice, and pull my pin out. Do not sew over your pins.
That's another good.
Do not sew over your pins, please.
To sew over your pins or not to sew over your pins. You know, it's funny because I won't sew over a pin, just because that can go really wrong. And you can explain why that goes really wrong. But there are people that, you know, there's a million different people telling you a million different things out there on YouTube, on different reels, on all the things. And I watched a video where a woman was actually scolding people for not sewing over their pins.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, oh, you've never had a pin accident go wrong.
Yeah. So, if you hit this pin at just the exact wrong time on your machine, you can throw the whole timing out of your machine. Mm-hmm. That is an expensive, I was going to say vet bill, expensive machine bill, repair bill, that I don't want to have. So to me, I'm going to sew as close as I can and pull it out. You could, I mean, I feel like you could maybe break the pin and have it come back in your face.
You can, and I know people who've done that.
Especially because you think about you're sewing like right here in that pin. Ooh, I don't want to do that.
So if you sew over pins and you've never had an issue, well, you don't have to argue with us. You just keep sewing over the pins if that's what you like.
You do what's good for you.
Yeah, we're just saying from personal experience, I've seen people who don't wear glasses and who wear safety glasses when they sew. I mean, okay,
hilarious.
if you do, leave that in the comments.
Yeah.
But it does. It does. It's happened. It's happened to me not on this side of things because I don't tend to pin here so much. It's actually happened to me on the long arm. Somebody left a pin in their quilt.
Oh my gosh.
And I did not know, I did not see it, got it all loaded, and I'm just quilting along and it hit the pin. And so it didn't break the actual pin, it broke my machine needle and it came flying right at me.
Oh my gosh.
So just on the, I prefer to be cautious and be a little bit more on the safe side of things. So besides the damage it can do to you, it can do damage to your machine. Like you said, with the timing.
Yeah.
It can pop your pin in half, and then it can drop it down inside the machine, and then you have, with a long arm, I could go in and clean it all out really well. But with a sewing machine, sometimes it flies in there and you've got computer parts, all the things. I just can't recommend it. I just can't. So if you do it, hats off and continue. But for us, I'm not recommending that. That's a safety thing.
One of somebody that used to work here, she's not here anymore, and she was older. Mm-hmm. She always sewed over her pins.
Yes, she did.
Until the day she sewed over her pin at home and it threw the whole timing out, and she had to come with her head hung low. And bring her machine in to get it fixed. So, I mean, it does happen. It's just one of those things.
And for us, it's a little bit different because you may be at home sewing and it works for you. But for us, we see a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. Like we all do it. We sell sewing machines here. I have technicians here that work on sewing machines. So we see what happens if it does go wrong, where maybe a lot of people aren't able to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's not, I don't know, it's talked about a lot anywhere, but it's just our safety reason. If nothing else, just be safe and don't sew over the pins.
That was
a lot. One more thing, it can also dull your sewing machine needle faster if you're hitting pins. So anyway.
That's true as well.
Yeah, that was a side tangent there.
So, okay. That's pressing your seams to the dark. Now I will say, nothing is set in stone. If you have a pattern in front of you and they show you the arrows as to press this direction, and maybe it's not pressing to the dark, you're going to want to follow that pattern.
Yes.
Because they're setting you up for all your seams to be able to nest nicely and to lay flat. So if your pattern does give you pressing arrows, then go ahead and definitely use those, because that's going to help it go together and lie flat.
And that's the same, if I come across a pattern that says press open, although I don't normally press open for that pattern, I will, because it's telling me to. So I like to follow the instructions. So
pressing open, I do know quilters who, that's all they do. They press everything open, and they love how it lays flat and how beautifully it works in that way. There's always been, and maybe I guess we'd call it the old wives' tale or something, where people said, oh, don't press open because it makes your seams stronger. So if it's pressed to one side versus pressing open, it makes those seams stronger. those who press open all the time disagree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, as long as your timing is good, your stitches look good, you know, it's not going to come apart.
Oh, right. No.
And so that, yeah, I don't pay attention to that because it's not, those seams are not going to come apart on you. So pressing open though does make it lay nice and flat. The issue that I always have is when you're joining your seams together then, because I'm so used to nesting and having that just fall perfectly. So that's tough for me. So do you want to talk about pinning when you press open, since you're more the pinner?
So yeah, as you can see, we have a couple different kinds of pins here. So we have our magic flathead pins. So kind of just these are long ones, and they're very, very sharp. I love these pins. So when you're pressing open, you want to match up where your seams are and then pin on each side of the seam. And that's all you gotta do. And it should give you pretty exact results if you're sewing right up to each pin. Mm-hmm. We also have the magic fork pins, which have double prongs on them. So you can line up your seam, your open seam here, and then put your double prongs in. And check it, and you should be good to go. So then you only have to use one pin versus two pins.
Yeah, but same concept. You're pinning on either side of the seam.
Yes.
And I will say these magic pins, I do like that flat, no matter which one you're using. The tops of them are flat and
heat resistant.
Yep, heat resistant.
And we have lots more than just these in stock. I will put all the links in the comments, or in the bio. These are the ones that are really nice to use when you are pinning a lot of blocks together. And these little magic fork pins, if you can see, it's also bent to give you that angle to get in there. I use these a lot for embroidery too.
Oh, sure.
So they're a good tool to have in your sewing room.
So, you can comment below and tell us, do you press your seams open or do you press to the dark?
Do you pin or not?
Oh yeah, do you pin or not? Do you use steam? It's kind of fun. I mean, definitely comment, because it's kind of fun just to see what everybody does. We all do things a little bit different. I think the biggest thing is not so much the details of how you do it, as more having the right tools that help you.
The tools are what you need.
That make your life easier. That's kind of the point when we show a lot of things.
I do. We have these little, what are these called? Silk pins, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I think they're the silk pins.
So they're shorter and they're sharp, and I love these too. I use them a lot. But after you pin, you need to press. And then we have clappers to get you even. Speaking of tools to get the job done. So we have different versions.
I like this. So what clappers are and what they do. So after you have pressed your seam, then you just lay the clapper down right on top of it. And you can just leave it there. It doesn't take very long. Honestly, I've never timed it at all. I just leave it there for a little bit, and then the heat goes into your wood, so it's like you are essentially letting it iron.
Yeah, like double-sided.
Yeah, a little bit longer. And it just makes everything lay so flat and so nice. This one is my favorite because it does have the same wool mat wrapped around the top of it. So if you are pressing a seam open, you can lay it right across the top like so. And then when you press this seam, you're not getting your other seams in the way.
And gravity helps it pull it down a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
It's very nice when you're pressing seams open, especially if you've ever done like a 6-inch block or 12-inch block, and you keep hitting everything else. It takes everything else away so that you are staying more accurate.
Yep. So just to press on there and then lift up and set it down on it, and boom, nice seams.
And this one is just a square. It doesn't have the wool on it, but it is nice, and it's nice and heavy. So when you put it down on there, it presses down on it, holds that heat in there.
And I think it's great when you, just size-wise, because when you finish that block and you give it its final press, and then you can set the square down on it, yes. I think that makes the world of difference.
Flatten out a little bit, especially when you have a block with a lot of seams.
Yep.
You know, it really helps that final press.
And so, Wonder Clips, do you...
I did bring my silk box pins.
I thought that was it, but I was like, wait a minute. They're
silk
clover.
Pins.
Clover silk pins?
Clover silk pins. And they're lightweight, but they're great for pinning, especially if you're in a small spot where you want to be really right on. They're wonderful. And they are also heat resistant.
Nice.
Heat resistant. Yes. And I brought Wonder Clips. I didn't bring any open ones, but just some people are clipping things together, which is great. Like if you have a long seam you're trying and you don't want to pin, you can clip it. I don't feel like I get as much accuracy with clipping, but that could just be me as well.
But Wonder Clips, they just have their place. They're like an extra set of hands. There's a lot of different things you can use them for. So if there's something that you're trying to put together and you don't want to pin it, like when you're putting your binding on, you don't want to run pins down your binding, that's a great place for Wonder Clips.
Bag making is cork, faux leather, Wonder pins are great, or Wonder Clips are great for that. And these jumbo Wonder Clips are my absolute favorite. I didn't think I'd like the jumbo ones till I used them. And then, I can't say enough good things about them. It's great for binding. It's great for machine embroidery. You can hold things away from your hoop with them. If you're cutting a big stack and you want to clip it together, it's great for that because you have enough room. Just wonderful tool to have around. Well, I think we've covered our points on pressing.
I think so. I mean, there's always something, right? Always something. But
there was something else. The storage case.
Oh yeah,
and the cleaning.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just rolling into that.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, I thought we caught it all, but we
didn't. No, I was just thinking in general when you are pressing. I think we've shown, a good amount of tools and so forth. And so when you're all done, we don't want to forget to clean our irons. So we have this is the Bone Ash Iron Clean. And it looks like a dryer sheet, but it is not. I actually have this sitting right next to my pressing mat because especially if I'm using a fusible.
Oh, yeah.
So I just run it over it. And you want to hang it on the side. So if this is your pressing station, you want to hang it so it hangs down. And then you run your iron this way across it. You don't want to lay it flat and just iron over it. It's not going to get into the cracks where it needs to. So if it just hangs down on the side of your pressing station and then you run your iron across it that way, that will help keep your iron clean.
And you will be surprised what comes off of the bottom of your iron.
Yes.
I just cleaned the shop irons the other day after a big class with fusible, and it was kind of gross.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, not just your fusible, but all of your fabrics and the stabilizers that go into the fabrics
and your sprays
and
that
then
you
your
use.
yes, your steam, your sprays. Yeah, they just get dirty. And then I love that.
So I usually use the sheets. So I used this the other day just to try it out, and it worked amazing. You just put a little bit of it on a cloth, and you take your hot iron and do the same, rub it down, and it cleaned everything right off.
And I believe it says this on there, but you're going to want to make sure that the cloth you're using is cotton.
100% cotton.
100% cotton. You don't want to use a towel that has a lot of poly in it. Reason being, you're going to set your iron on the highest setting, and that way it's not melting down and putting stuff on your iron that you're trying to clean. So just make sure that it's a soft 100% cotton towel that you're using to clean.
You can also use this to clean your hair tools, which is a cool multi-purpose thing.
From a former
hairstylist. But so yeah, this worked really great to get all the residue off. Yeah. I asked Denise, I'm like, can I use this microfiber towel? And she's like, no. Like, okay.
Nope, not gonna work.
She's like, do not do
that. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yep, so this is the Faultless iron cleaner. Love it, love it, love it. And then I just grabbed this for your minis. This is a Yazzie iron storage case. We do have these in stock. So if you are somebody who travels quite a bit, retreats, classes, that kind of stuff, it's nice to have just a little storage case for that mini iron that you're bringing along. So
it is.
And we have them in a few different colors. But again, it's a Yazzie iron storage case, and you will find it on the website, our website as well, MendedHeartsQuilting.com. So, my goodness, now I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
I think so. Yeah, we hope that this helps you understand why pressing matters, and it's very an important step in your quilting. And I know a lot of people get irritated. They're like, I don't want to press everything, but you need to.
Oh, and here's a tip I didn't think about, but I should say this. Just here's your very last tip. So when you first sew your two pieces together, you're going to want to press that because it sets your seam, and then flip and press it open. So that's one thing where I was like, oh, how many times do I have to press this, right? But I will tell you, if you start doing that, you will notice a huge difference in your seams. So again, once you sew those two pieces together, just hit that with the iron, and then flip, press to the dark, flip to the dark, and then you can come back in and press that, and it helps your seams lay flat, and it helps just set it in when you pull it back too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's technical reasons, but it works, and that's all I need to know. It's magic.
It's just what you do.
Yep. So that is that's a really, really good tip, to set your seams before you press them open. It makes the world of difference. It really does. So, we better stop or I'll start thinking of things.
I know. We'll just keep going for the rest of the day.
So, so if this is the first episode you're catching, make sure you go back. We've talked about cutting fabric. We've talked about 1/4-inch seams and
qualities of fabrics from different places and different gray goods and all that good stuff. That was a good episode.
Yeah. Or if you know somebody who's just starting off, it's nice to have a reference point to, talk about different things. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, we better run before we spend our whole Saturday here.
Oh my goodness. All right.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.